Okay, we have already looked at part 1, we looked at 2 items. In part 2, we looked at 3 different things that we're comparing to each other and how they link together. Now we're going to look at consecutive integers, consecutive numbers. One thing to remember about consecutive numbers is what the word consecutive means. It means one right after the other. So it makes a difference whether it says consecutive numbers, consecutive even numbers, or consecutive odd numbers. We will look at all 3 of those. So in starting, first of all, we're going to read this problem. The numbers of 2 consecutively numbered gym lockers have a sum of 127. What are the locker numbers? Okay, so what is the description that we're dealing with? We're dealing with a description that says consecutively numbered gym lockers. That's your description. So based on that description, what do we have? We have locker number 1 and we have locker number 2. That's the 2 items that we're dealing with. It says they are consecutive numbered gym lockers. Since they are consecutive numbered gym lockers, let's look at what consecutive means. It means something like 6 followed by the number 7. 7 is 1 more than 6. So if we do not know the first number, what do we call it? Yeah, you got it. We give it that variable again, and our favorite one is x. So we're going to label locker number 1 x. So then what is locker number 2? What did I add over here to 6 to get 7? Yeah, you're right, we added 1. So if we apply that same principle here, what's it going to be? Yeah, I hear that. It's x plus 1. Now we have our things labeled exactly as we say we need to do it, because when we're dealing with labeling problems, our first step is let's label what we need to know. So now let's look at what it says. It says that the sum of these 2 consecutive numbered lockers is 127. So what does that mean? It means the sum of the 2. So it's locker number 1 plus locker number 2 is going to equal that 127. Okay, now just like we did in the others, let's translate those words into our algebraic symbols. Now you do it for me. Let me hear it. That's right. X, yeah, plus, yeah, x plus 1. You got it. And what does that equal? Yeah, now you said it, 127. So you see, there's our equation. X plus 1 equals 127. The like terms are x and x, so we have 2 of them making 2x plus 1 equals 127. Again, isolate your 2x, so you're going to do the opposite of the plus 1, which means you subtract 1 from both sides. This becomes 0, so you have 2x equals 126. Now multiplication, opposite, divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, making 1x or just x. 2 goes into 126. 2 into 12 is 6, and 2 into 6 is 3. So x is equal to 63. Are we finished? No, you're right. We're not finished. We have to go label these now because they ask what are the numbers of the 2 lockers. So first of all, what is the number of locker number 1? Yeah, it's your x, isn't it? So that is your 63. And what's locker number 2? Yeah, you're right. It's your 63 for x plus your 1, making 64. So your 2 consecutive lockers are 63 and 64. And in your MATLAB system, you'll type them in 63, 64. That's usually how they want it, unless they say, what is locker number 1? What is locker number 2? So it depends upon what they're asking for. Follow the directions. Good job. Continuing on now, looking at those consecutive numbers again. This time we're going to look at consecutive even integers. So let's read our problem. Find 2 consecutive even integers such that the smaller added to 3 times the larger gives a sum of 38. So let's look at that in more detail. First of all, again, what is the descriptive part of this sentence? It's right here. 2 consecutive even integers. That's the description of what we're trying to find. So what are consecutive even integers? Well, let's look at an example. An example such as 6 and 8. Those are consecutive even integers. So they also labeled these as the smaller and the larger. So we're going to use those words as we work with this. So we're going to look at integer number 1 and integer number 2. Integer number 1, which is also the smaller, and I'm going to use an abbreviation SM for smaller. This is equal to what? And integer number 2, also labeled the larger, is equal to what? Okay, well, let's think about that. If we don't know, we're going to start with the smaller one. If we don't know what is our first choice every time? It's a variable, and we're going to choose our favorite one. It's X, you guys. You'll get tired of seeing the letter X. So then when we look over here at our example, what did we add to the first one to get the second one? Yeah, you said it, it's 2. You're right. So if we do the same thing here, our second one is going to be what? X plus 2. Yep, that's right, X plus 2. So you see the difference between consecutive integers and consecutive even integers is what you add to the first one. And you know what? Consecutive odd integers will act this same way. So put that in your mind and keep it there. Okay? So now we've done the description part. We have everything labeled. So our first step is done. Now our second step is to go from that labeling to the equation itself. Now what gives us the equation? Well, it's the action type part of it. It says the smaller, that's your subject, added to 3 times the larger. And that's your predicate, your verb. So what is our action? We're adding it, guys. That's what added to means. So let's put that into an equation, first of all with words and number symbols, and then all number symbols. So let's look at it. The smaller, well, I'm going to use SM for the smaller. Added to, what does that mean? Write these things down. What does added to mean? Plus, you got it. That's right, plus. 3 times the larger. 3 times, what does that translate into number symbols? Yeah, 3 with the multiplication, you're right. 3 times the larger, and I'm going to put it in parentheses because that is a grouping as well as a multiplication. And then gives a sum of, that is your equality. It means it's equal. Equal to, and what's it equal to? Yeah, I hear that, 38. You got it. We're almost there, guys. So now let's look from our words over here to what the labeling means. What does the smaller mean? It means X plus 3 times. What's your larger? Yeah, I hear that, X plus 2. And that is equal to 38. And don't forget, guys, first step here, you've got a distributive property that has to take place. Remember, you're going to distribute it to the first and also to the second. So I'm going to do one more step and then I'll leave you to it. X plus 3 times X is 3X plus 3 times 2 is a 6, and that is equal to 38. So combining our like terms, we have X plus 3X. These are like terms. That's a 1. 1 plus 3 makes you 4 times X plus 6 equals 38. And again, just like we've been doing, this is the one we want to isolate. That's a plus 6, so the opposite is minus 6 again. Both sides, this becomes 0. So we have 4x plus 0, which means you've got 4x. So we have 4x equals 38 minus 6 is 32. Okay, again, multiplication, the opposite of multiplication is division. Divide by the exact same number that's in front. Do the same to the other side. Got to keep it even, guys. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so we have x equals 32 divided by 4 is 8. So we find out that our x is 8. But what is x, guys? You got to go back and see what you labeled x. The smaller number, or the first integer, was x. So that means this one is 8, and the larger integer is x plus 2, so that's 8 plus 2, which equals 10. So your two integers are 8 and 10. Good job.